big surprise from Big Finish's catalogue this year was their reboot of the Paternoster Gang series. Well, it's not really like a reboot in terms of the canon, in terms of the continuity, it's more in terms of the branding. The Paternoster Gang Trespassers series is telling one big story, because the Rogues Gallery box set that we talked about a couple of months ago follows Jenny, Vastra, and Strax, played by Neve McIntosh, Catherine Stewart, and Dan Starkey. These three, who were introduced during the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who as Victorian detectives, extraterrestrial specialists who are working in Victoria, London, on Paternoster Row in London. These lot have their own little Big Finish series where they solve alien-related mysteries on the streets of London, and this was a really, really fun and really cool box set, which culminated in Till Death Do Us Part by Lisa McMullen, which saw Vastra and Jenny finally tie the knot in their long-anticipated wedding, which was crashed briefly by the Eighth Doctor. However, minor spoilers for the ending of the Rogues Gallery box set, it turned out that Jenny Flint, the maid, the loving now wife of the Silurian Vastra, has actually been infiltrated, as in she is not her. We don't know exactly who she is, but she has somehow infiltrated the Paternoster Gang, and Jenny is somewhere unknown. We don't know where she is or what's happened to the actual Jenny. The Paternoster Gang has been infiltrated. So the Paternoster Gang Trespassers 2, the Casebook of Paternoster Row, that's one hell of a title, that's a lengthy title there. So this box set takes place shortly after the events of Trespassers 1, where Jenny and Vastra have been on their honeymoon, but Vastra has sensed that during their time alone together that something is wrong with Jenny, something is a little bit amiss about her. Vastra is going through some of their old cases to try and find clues as to what has happened to Jenny, and this takes the form of 3 stories, one of which stars the wonderful, irreplaceable Tom Baker. The first one is Anne of 1,000 Light Years by James Kettle. The second one is Paternoster by Gary Russell. And then the third one is The Gentleman Thieves by Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle. So Anne of 1,000 Light Years, of course, like I said, starts with Vastra and Strax going through their old case files. And the case file is about these 2 star-crossed lovers. So you've got this young woman, Lady Anne, played by Anna Critchlow, who is in love with a young, poor stable hand called Albert, played by Richard Reed. However, her mother does not approve of the marriage because of class reasons. However, Vastra, Jenny, and Strax feel like maybe Lady Anne might actually not be human. She might be a woman from the stars, or at least her parents are people from the stars. And there's something in the furniture of the house that is very, very deadly. However, when Vastra tries to investigate the furniture, tries to investigate Anne's house, she stumbles across a very familiar face. Let's play a clip from Anne of 1,000 Light Years.
Mr. Camborne? Mr. Camborne? Is there anyone at home? Mr. Camborne?
What's all the fuss out there? Didn't anyone ever tell you I don't work Wednesdays? Ah!
It's you.
Well, of course it's me. Who else could I possibly be?
Which one are you? I can never remember which order you come in.
Oh, neither can I. By the way, don't say anything you shouldn't.
Anything I shouldn't. Doctor...
Shh. That's exactly the sort of thing I mean. I'm travelling incognito.
Pretending to be a solicitor. Why? I think you just like subterfuge for the sake of it.
Ah, said the Silurian in a veil.
But there's no one else here. Who do you think might be eavesdropping?
I don't trust the furniture.
I see. Have you been spending a little too long in the time vortex recently?
Well, I call that a very uncharitable remark.
Are you actually working for the Countess of Warminster?
Let me tell you the first rule of cross-examination. Never, ever ask a question when you're not sure of the answer.
I'm afraid I must persist.
No, I'm not working for the Countess of Warminster. I'm here in a strictly freelance capacity. That's a point. I really should be finding someone to bill.
And where's the real Mr. Camborne?
Bath! I packed him off with instruction to take the waters and also a voucher for his ice cream. But enough of my business. What about your business?
God, Tom Baker's so good all the time. He never stops being absolutely amazing. What you need to understand about the Paternoster Gang Big Finish stories is that they are mysteries and there is like alien sci-fi elements to it. But first and foremost, I think that these stories are comedies, and in that respect, this box set generally, but this story as well, is just really, really funny. Obviously, Strax is like the big comic relief character of the three. He's the Sontaran who has no idea what social norms are. He's a big walking potato man dressed as a butler, and everyone just walks around like having no idea what this strange deformed man is doing in Victorian London, and it's very, very funny. But for this story, what I really like is that even though you have a lizard woman from the dawn of time, her kung fu fighting ass-kicking maid wife, and also a Sontaran man who's obsessed with munitions, the rest of the supporting cast are also pretty bonkers. With this love story, you've got Lady Anne, who just wants to be whisked away in a lovely fairy tale, and she's like so like eye in the sky. She's away with the fairies all the time. But then you've got Albert, played by Richard Reed, who is this stable hand. And like Jenny is like so committed to making sure that this love story pans out the way that it would in like an Anthony Trollope like novel. And what you've got is that Albert is like, oh no, I also believe in the class system. I also think that I shouldn't be with her because I'm a poor stable boy and that, you know, I should know my place. But also I know my place is above the guy who we bring in and pay like a sixpence every week in order to scare the crows in the field. If we didn't have the class system, how would I know that I'm above him? Like, they're completely in on it. And it's such like a funny commentary and dynamic on weird like Victorian London values. I really liked it. Tom Baker is of course really fun as well. This is his like only appearance in the box set, so maybe having him on the cover is a little bit like false advertising. I don't know. He's just fun to be here, but of course this is the Paternoster Gang story and he can't really affect the A plot too much. He just gets like some really weird like side plot where he's fighting the furniture. It's really funny. Tom Baker's great as usual, of course, but if you're expecting, oh, this is the Paternoster Gang meeting and teaming up with the Fourth Doctor for a box set, you're not going to get that here. This is his only appearance over the course of the box set, like in the latter half of this one story, but it's still really good. I still enjoyed it quite a lot. I think that it's really fun to like have Strax be like the messenger between Lady Anne and Albert, and he just has no idea how to court people. That's just like a really fun dynamic. Dan Starkey's great over the course of this box set as well. I also love the behind the scenes interviews as well with Neve McIntosh, who plays Madame Vastra, like getting genuinely emotional, like talking about growing up with Tom Baker being her doctor when she was a child and now getting to work alongside him in this box set and like acting alongside him, and she gets like genuinely quite teary-eyed, and it's really lovely. It's just great to see that like she's so like invested in Doctor Who, and she's also just like a genuine fan. I think that was really lovely. But yeah, Anne of 1,000 Light Years is a fun star-crossed lovers subversive romance story, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. So the next story is Paternoster by Gary Russell, and Paternoster is actually the name of, well, it's actually a title of like a big esteemed member in high society that their street, Paternoster Row, was named after, and Paternoster is here played by Jamie Newell, and Paternoster goes to Madame Vastra because they run a detective agency. She's just known as the weird woman in the veil that looks a little bit green if you look at her in the right light, with her strange butler and also her maid who knows kung fu. But in this story, Paternoster goes to Madame Vastra's detective agency and says that there's this society that's living in the sewers of London. They've deliberately isolated themselves from the rest of the city. However, they think that there's some sort of creature in the sewers, and that is picking them off one by one. I don't believe it, of course. I think it's just riff-raff fairy tales. But will you please go and investigate, because people are going missing in the sewers of London. You've got Marjorie, who is like the de facto leader of this society in the sewers, played by Helen Goldwyn, and she's prepping for the visitation of the Paternoster Gang. Let's play a clip from Paternoster.
Lunch should be ready shortly, Paternoster.
Oh, just look at that spread. Oh, where would the people be without you, Marjorie? Mother of the flock, teacher, medic, and cook. You really are irreplaceable.
It's nothing, Paternoster. Nothing at all.
On the contrary, looking after your community is a huge task.
Oh, my God.
Is something wrong, my dear?
You're
You're looking a bit green, Mum. Was it the journey?
Are you criticising my driving? Blame the horse, not me.
I apologise for my rudeness. You must be the great detective.
Vastra. Madam Vastra.
Come in, my friends. You're in time for lunch.
Ugh, this tunnel stinks. Effluence. It smells of...
Strax, be polite.
You smell like this every day. Human smell.
You must be Marjorie. Paternoster has said many good things about you and your leadership of this undercity community.
You were very kind, Madame Vastra. For someone from up above.
You have chosen to leave mainstream society. I do not ask for your reasons, but I want you to know I admire your choice.
Of course. Could have chosen somewhere better than a sewer. I mean, he's a bit ignorant, but Strax is right. It is a bit pungy down here.
Give it half a day, you won't even notice it.
I will. Sontaran olfactory centres are far superior to human.
Sontaran?
I believe it's somewhere in Turkey.
That's a fun recurring joke that everyone thinks that Sontaran is a place in Turkey. I really like that. Anyway, so this story, Paternoster, like I said, it's got some really cool, interesting world building about Vastra's past and one reason why she wound up in the place where she is. Well, it involves a life task that was entrusted to her millennia ago that has gone unsolved, so it's kind of been on the back burner in terms of the cases that she's solving. But this particular story, Paternoster, brings that to the forefront, and there's some really cool, like, twists and turns here. However, what I will say is that my first time listening to Paternoster, I don't think that the actual mystery came to a satisfying conclusion, and there was an awful lot of questions. There's a few twists that are super duper predictable because the cast is so small. So it's like, oh, who is the one who is picking off all of these people in London? Oh, there's only a cast of like 3 characters. It can only be one of these ones, I guess. You know, you're not going to introduce an entirely new thing. And there was actually like one thing that I thought was a pretty big plot hole as to like, you know, why would they actually involve Vastra, Jenny, and Strax for this in the first place? But then I did listen to it again, and it's okay, that bit was actually explained, but it, you know, it's one of those things that's pretty easy to miss, and it's like it's on the forefront of your mind. It's sort of like, if this hadn't have happened, if Vastra hadn't have gotten involved, you know, the monster in the sewers would have been absolutely fine. They didn't need to involve Vastra at all. But then it turns out it is kind of explained, but I missed it the first time I was listening to this story. But I liked the idea of this society that's living underneath London in the sewers. And Jenny, despite being like a quote lowly maid or whatever, is a little bit judgmental about it. And Vastra is like kind of taken aback by that. And Strax is just funny as always. He's like, human smell. Like I think that Dan Starkey, believe it or not, is kind of the MVP of this whole box set. Like, because when you're playing a Sontaran, when you're playing Strax specifically, I imagine it would be so easy to just make him a one-note character to like deliver with the same cadence and the same lines all the time, because Strax is 99% of the time the butt of the joke, because he's the 5-foot-tall potato man who is like, oh, I want the fragmentation grenades. Can we permission to blow up this pitiful human Vastra? You know, like that's like 90% of his motivation. But Dan Starkey is able to like make it work every time and still make the jokes and the delivery feel fresh every time, even if the same joke is fundamentally being told. But yeah, with Paternoster, I thought it was a solid mystery with some really good world building and some really great performances. I think that some of the details are a little bit contrived. Like I said, I thought there was like a massive plot hole in the heart of the story until I listened to it again. So maybe that's more me as opposed to the actual story itself. But Paternoster was fine. Some nice bit of world building there, but nothing like to really write home about in my opinion though. But then with the third installment of this box set, we have The Gentleman Thieves by Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle. And folks, you folks will know, long-time viewers of this live stream, that Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle are names that I get very, very excited for when I see them attached to Doctor Who Big Finish stories, and Torchwood as well. Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle are so much fun. I love their horror sensibilities, their wit. I just think that they're just such a terrific pair. So what we have at the beginning of The Gentleman Thieves is Jenny is reading the newspaper and is learning about the exploits of an acclaimed jewel thief called Algernon Rackham, played by Cassian Bilton in this story. And the headline story in the newspaper in London is that Algernon has been arrested by the police and he has been finally apprehended and is behind bars. But then who walks through their door of the Paternoster Row Detective Agency, but Algernon Rackham himself claiming to have been framed, and it's like, there's somebody in this prison cell of mine, and I have no idea who it is. So, Vastra, Jenny, and Strax decide, in lieu of like destroying the prison, because that's what that's what Strax wants to do, because he's a Sontaran, of course. They decide to pay Rackham a visit in the cells. Let's play a clip from The Gentleman Thieves.
He's in here.
Oh, thank you so much, officer.
It is you, isn't it? The great detective. Know that veil anywhere. Listen, I'll give you lot 5 minutes, okay? Then I'm coming to get you out of there. All of you. Sorry, did he just growl at me?
He meant only to thank you in his own particular way.
5 minutes. I mean it.
Good morning.
Well, I say.
Gosh, what a bunch. Are you my legal counsel?
Subterfuge and lies, exactly as I said.
You don't remember us?
Remember you? I'm quite sure I've never had the pleasure. Charmed, I'm sure. I'm Algernon Rackham.
That's enough of that. We know who you are.
You came to my office this morning and hired my services as a detective.
Must have been somebody else. Been stuck here all night, I'm afraid.
Ain't got a brother, have you?
No, just a sister. Lovely girl. Haven't seen her in years. Lives in the colonies, married a chap from New South Wales, would you believe? Why?
Confess your subterfuge immediately, or I shall be forced to discharge this weapon.
Oh, good lord.
Put that away, Strax. Can't you see he's telling the truth?
Are you absolutely sure?
Strax. Mr. Rackham, we're here to help you. To that end, I'm going to ask some questions, and I suggest you answer them as quickly and simply as you are able.
Are you my legal counsel?
In a manner of speaking.
Mr. Rackham, are you guilty of the crimes you have been arrested for?
Oh. No.
Please explain what happened to his face.
He's winking, Strax. Means he's guilty as sin.
If you please, Mr. Rackham, the whole and entire truth.
So yeah, it seems that there is more than one Rackham in their midst. Now, for the Gentleman Thieves plot, I won't dive too deeply into spoilers or specifically what's happening, because there's a few twists and a few turns and quite a few red herrings as well. And what I will say is that there is an element of doppelgangers involved and cloning as well. That's all I'll say, because there's some other stuff related to that I wanted to talk about with this review. But The Gentleman Thieves is such a fun time. Like, it's such a really fun story where Vastra, Jenny, and Strax get this like jewel thief / cricketer who was apparently based off of a real life person in Victorian England. So they go on this little misadventure to try and figure out why there is like multiple of this jewel thief and what's behind it. In terms of the plot, I was really invested throughout. I think it's a really compelling hook, and also the way it unveils itself over the course of the 45-50 minute story was really interesting. I thought that the sense of humor, as with all of the stories in this box set, was really on point. Like I said, Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringling are such fun and witty writers. I just love what they do for the characters as well, because there is like an element of like cloning as well. There's a really great scene towards the end involving Strax, and it's like a surprisingly dramatic moment for the character, and Dan Starkey, who's playing the comic relief Potato Man, just rises to the occasion. And it's such like a lovely but short scene, but it just shows that even though these are comedies, this is fundamentally a series, like just not just these stories, but a series of the Paternoster Gang with a really, really great dynamic at the heart of it. You've got like the suave detective, a lizard woman from the dawn of time with these alien extraterrestrial powers like strong sense and strong smell and strong taste and everything. And then you've also got this ass-kicking working class maid character with kung fu fighting and street smarts, and then you've got the munitions expert who is physically strong and a potato man from a different planet who's part of a clone batch. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but it is an incredible trio, and it kind of shows that Stephen Moffat really had something with the Paternoster Gang. And correct me if I'm wrong, chat, they've not been seen on TV since 2013, 2014. Was Deep Breath was Deep Breath in Series 8 the last time we actually saw these three on screen? Because the more I listen to these Big Finish box sets, the more I want to see them again. Like, I don't think they'll get their own spin-off, like, anytime soon or anything, because, of course, the prosthetics budget would be a bit mad, and I think that maybe Dan Starkey and Eve McIntosh in particular would be happy to not sit in a makeup chair for 4 or 5 hours every day for 6 months to get these prosthetics on for a full-blown spin-off series or something. But there's real potential to this. There's genuinely like a really great dynamic here, and these box sets, all three of the stories in this box set, really utilize that effectively. And even though characters could be one note, like Jenny and Strax in particular, they're not. And I think the performances are really on point, with actors who are really invested in these particular roles, and writers who know how to pitch these stories for a weird, like, Victorian London eccentricity with the sensibilities, but like great humor and strong character work with genuinely endearing and interesting mysteries at the heart of it, particularly in The Gentlemen Thieves. I think this was my favourite of the box set, The Gentlemen Thieves, because it is just so fun and wacky and strange. Like, one red herring like halfway through that probably could have actually have been the solution. Like, oh, this was actually what the motive was so funny and so inventive and strange, and it can only happen in a setting or in a box set like this. I'm genuinely invested in the Paternoster Gang box set. I don't think I'll like remember the specifics of the stories like years from now. Like, I remember the ending of Rogue's Gallery because it ends on a cliffhanger that leads into the Casebook of Paternoster Row, and this one also ends in a cliffhanger as well, which will lead into Trespassers 3, which comes out this coming December. So we've got a bit of a while to wait for the next chapter in this story, but like, this is like such a great corner of the Doctor Who universe that's really funny and really entertaining. And if you just want some really great like escapist entertainment and crime fiction with an eclectic cast of wacky characters, and that's not even including the main trio at the heart of it, you're in for a really good time here. This isn't like game-changing Doctor Who. This isn't like Children of the Earth or Let's be depressing and profound, and like, not saying there's no profound elements here, there's some really strong moments of drama, but like, if you just want some really solid Doctor Who spin-off material, Big Finish are more than up to the task here. The Paternoster Gang is like just a really solid set of releases so far with this Trespassers rebranding. I really like it a lot. This is really fun. I'm invested in these characters. I'm invested in this ongoing story arc of what has happened to Jenny, who has replaced her, and what will Strax and Vastra do to get out of this one. I like it a lot. And every so often they'll throw a Doctor in. Paul McGann was great in this one. Tom Baker's great in this one. But, you know, these three can carry stories on their own, and that's really admirable.